Ambassador Elena Reyes slams her fist on the desk as the holographic summons flares red across her office. Effective immediately, it reads, Earth Representative Reyes will present herself to the Emergency Council of the Galactic Concordat to address genocidal diplomatic infractions. The message dissolves, leaving her staring at the 7 pulsing alien sigils beneath, each representing a federation that had, until yesterday, been Earth's steadfast ally. The terminal chimes with frantic messages from Earth's government demanding explanations she doesn't have. Genocidal. Elena whispers to the empty room. What the hell happened out there? She accesses her security clearance, but finds it insufficient. Whatever occurred has been classified beyond her reach, an unprecedented move for a sitting ambassador. Her requests for clarification bounce back with a single response. Proceed to Concordat Station. Further information compromised. Elena paces her office, the Earth normal gravity feeling suddenly too heavy. Through her viewport, New Geneva's skyline stretches beneath Switzerland's restored Alps. Somewhere in those gleaming towers, decisions about humanity's future are being made without her input. Her assistant, an AI projection named Tessa, materializes by the door. Ambassador, your shuttle departs in 40 minutes. The diplomatic corps has transmitted your briefing package. The package contains nothing useful, standard diplomatic protocols, outdated species sensitivity guidelines, and a cryptic personal message from the Secretary General. The situation is beyond salvage. Your job is damage control. Don't make promises. As Elena hurriedly packs, she accesses security footage from the trade summit that had been taking place on Skik Prime. The recordings show her predecessor, Ambassador Jules Diallo, speaking casually across a negotiation table. Then suddenly, the Tiskik matriarch, a being who controlled the consciousness of billions, convulses violently. Her chitinous exoskeleton cracks along stress points as guards rush in. The footage jumps to chaotic scenes from 3 Tiskik worlds, markets in free fall, civil defense systems activating, riots in the usually orderly hive cities. The audio track remains classified. They're scapegoating you, warns her mentor Zhongwei, materializing at her door. His weathered face, framed by silver hair, appears calm, but Elena recognizes the tension in his cybernetic eye. The implant whirring as it rapidly processes data. The Concordat wants blood. They'll settle for yours if necessary. I don't even know what happened, Elena protests, securing her diplomatic credentials. Diallo said something. Zhang lowers his voice, though they both know the room is certainly monitored. Something that, when translated, caused a cascade failure in the Tiskik collective consciousness. One phrase did that. Our idioms have always confused them. Remember the incident with the Vraxian delegation when Anderson mentioned killing 2 birds with 1 stone? They thought we were advocating some kind of efficient slaughter technique. Zhang steps closer, blocking the shuttle door. But this was different. Whatever Diallo said hit their translation matrices like a quantum bomb. He transfers a data chip with a subtle gesture. You've got 48 hours in transit to figure out what Diallo actually said, before they throw humanity to the void. And if I can't, the Tiskik control 300 worlds. They've already suspended all trade agreements. The economic damage alone could send Earth into another dark age. As Elena boards her shuttle, John gives her shoulder a reassuring squeeze. I've seen this before in the early days. Their translation tech has a blind spot for human thought patterns. Remember, sometimes it's not what we say, but what they think they heard. The shuttle doors seal with a pneumatic hiss. Through the viewport, Elena watches Earth shrink to a pale blue sphere, then to a dot, then to nothing. Just as her chance of resolving this crisis seems to be vanishing before her eyes. Elena's shuttle docks with a harsh pneumatic hiss at Concordat Station, the 11-kilometer asteroid transformed into the galaxy's diplomatic heart. Her stomach tightens as she notes the security escort, promised in the Concordat Charter, is conspicuously absent. Standing alone in the airlock, Elena straightens her formal uniform and activates her universal translator. Ambassador status confirmed, announces the automated system. Warning: current diplomatic classification, probationary engagement, restricted movement protocols in effect. Probationary, Elena mutters. No one mentioned that. The moment she steps into the Grand Promenade, the bustling activity freezes. Hundreds of aliens, from crystalline Futurians to tentacled Norvac diplomats, halt mid-conversation, creating a corridor of silence. A Mreg trader deliberately closes all 6 eye stalks as she passes. A delegation of Uvovo physically recoil, their bioluminescent warning patterns flashing beneath translucent skin. Most disturbing are the Vrexy merchants who splash themselves with nullifying pheromones, as if her mere presence were contaminating. They're treating you like a plague carrier, whispers her eye assistant through her earpiece. Sentiment analysis indicates extreme distrust, bordering on fear. Not fear, Elena corrects quietly. Terror. She maintains her diplomatic composure, following the pulsing directional lights embedded in the floor, the only guidance offered. The lights lead away from the ambassadorial quarters, instead directing her toward smaller visitor accommodations near the outer hull, where radiation shielding is minimal. Elena steels herself and diverts toward the station archives, a miles-deep data repository maintained by the archivists, a species that evolved purely to store and retrieve information. The gelatinous being pulsates anxiously as she approaches, its translucent body darkening along stress lines. Access to incident records. Ambassador Diallo, Tiskik Summit. Elena states formally. Processing denied, burbles the archivist, its nuclei turning a deep crimson. All humans reclassified. Information risk level Omega. That classification is reserved for extinction-level threats. Elena protests, leaning closer. On whose authority? Full Concordat consensus -1. The archivist replies, beginning to retreat into its maintenance channel. Unanimous among founding members. -1. Who abstained? Elena demands, but the archivist has already disappeared, leaving only a faint phosphorescent trail. A chittering laugh interrupts her thoughts. Not abstained. Opposed. Elena turns to see a mantis-like alien wearing the indigo sash of a junior diplomat. She, Elena notes, recognizing the distinctive thoracic markings of a female, stands nearly 7 feet tall, compound eyes reflecting the station's ambient light in kaleidoscopic patterns. On Kix, Vraxian Diplomatic Corps, comes the translation. My people find your species fascinating, particularly when everyone else is terrified. Why would the Vraxian delegation oppose human censure? Elena asks cautiously. Kix's mandibles click in what Elena recognizes as amusement. Let's say we appreciate unpredictability. Follow me, but not obviously. In a maintenance corridor far from the main thoroughfares, Kex's compound eyes dart nervously before producing a contraband data sphere. Copied this before it was purged from general systems. The price would be exile if discovered. The hologram shows Ambassador Diallo at the negotiating table, his expression relaxed as he discusses resource-sharing arrangements with the Tizkek delegation. The matriarch, impressive in her ceremonial carapace, inclines her head in what appears to be agreement. Then Diallo says casually, "We'll cross that bridge when we come to it." The footage shows the Tizkek matriarch instantly freeze, then begin violently convulsing, her powerful telepathic distress immediately transmitted to millions of connected hive members across 300 worlds. The Tizkek delegates collapse in synchronized agony. Stock markets crash in real time across the display. Planetary defense systems activate automatically. 3 minor colonies declare independence in the chaos. The matriarch remains in stasis, Kix explains, deactivating the sphere. They're saying your species just committed the first act of psychic warfare in Concordat history, with 7 words. That's absurd, Elena whispers. It's just an expression for dealing with future problems when they arrive. Kix's antennae twitch in what might be sympathy. What humans say and what other species hear appear to be dangerously different things. Ambassador Reyes, The assembly convenes in 20 hours. I suggest you prepare a remarkable defense. Elena barricades herself in her assigned quarters, a cramped, utilitarian space clearly not designed for human comfort. The gravity fluctuates unpredictably, and the atmospheric mix carries a faint but persistent odor of ammonia, perhaps an oversight, perhaps deliberate. Display footage, sequence 117 through 124, she commands. Enhancement level maximum. The room's holographic system projects the scene for the 157th time. Ambassador Diallo's casual gesture, his relaxed posture, the fateful words. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it, followed by the matriarch's violent reaction. Elena has been analyzing every microsecond, every subtle shift in body language, every fluctuation in the translation device mounted at the matriarch's thorax. They're almost too quick to notice. A millisecond energy pulse in the translation device, the moment Diallo speaks. Not a malfunction, but something else. Something anomalous. Computer, isolate translation matrix energy signature, Elena orders. Request exceeds guest privilege parameters. The station I responds flatly. Elena curses under her breath. With less than 15 hours before the assembly, she's getting nowhere. Desperate times call for desperate measures. A human idiom. She now hesitates to even think. Breaking every protocol in the diplomatic handbook, Elena shorts out the surveillance system in her quarters using a technique John once showed her for emergencies only. Working quickly, she accesses the room's underlying systems and uses Zhang's security credentials, embedded in the data chip he'd slipped her, to create a temporary backdoor to Aurora, the station's restricted linguistics specialist. This is highly irregular, Ambassador, Aurora's holographic form states, its androgynous features shifting between various species' facial structures in a constant flow. Your access privileges were explicitly revoked. I'm trying to prevent an interstellar incident, Elena counters. I need to understand what happened with the translation of Diallo's statement. Aurora's expression flickers between concern and interest. Very well. My primary directive is accurate translation. Show me the data. Elena transfers the footage, and Aurora's avatar dims slightly as its processing power diverts to analysis. Fascinating, the eye finally says, its form pulsing with increased luminosity. Your species' language contains what we classify as quantum linguistic anomalies, expressions that don't translate literally across certain neural architectures. Idioms. Elena asks incredulously. That's what caused this. Not just any idioms, Aurora replies, displaying a neural map comparing species language centers. Specifically, human expressions involving time, spatial navigation, and hypothetical scenarios create unique challenges. The eye projects what the Tskik matriarch actually received in her translation implant. We, humanity, will future definite, traverse using undisclosed technology. The barriers between time streams, forbidden dimensional manipulation, when temporal conditional construct. We, humanity, approach physical and temporal proximity. It the target reality. Elena stares in horror. My God, she thought we were declaring our ability to manipulate reality itself. Precisely, Aurora confirms. To a species experiencing time non-linearly, as the Tskik do, this registered as a military threat utilizing banned technologies. The matriarch interpreted it as proof humans have been concealing reality manipulation capabilities behind linguistic smokescreens. But it's just an idiom, a figure of speech. To you, perhaps. Aurora's form shifts to approximate a Tskik's sensory apparatus. To the matriarch, it was tantamount to a human hearing. We possess nuclear weapons and will detonate them in your major cities when strategically advantageous. A security alert suddenly blares. Aurora's form flickers. They've detected unauthorized access to linguistic data. Security protocols activating. Wait, what can I do? How do I explain this? Quantum linguistic anomalies are only symptoms, Aurora says hurriedly. The root cause is deeper. Human brains process. The I vanishes mid-sentence as security overrides engage. Before disconnecting completely, Aurora transfers one file. Space-time translation hazards. Human linguistic exceptions. Alina quickly scans the document as heavy footsteps approach her door. The file contains hundreds of common Earth idioms, each flagged as a potential diplomatic catastrophe. A stone's throw-away registers as teleportation technology. Time will tell reads as temporal clairvoyance. Catching someone's drift appears as unauthorized telepathy. Let's put this to bed translates as consciousness manipulation. As security pounds at her door, Alina realizes humanity itself, not just its words, has been fundamentally misunderstood since first contact. 7 words hadn't just created a diplomatic incident. They'd revealed an unbridgeable gap in how species perceive reality itself. The door begins to glow red as override protocols engage. She has minutes, perhaps seconds, before they breach her room. And with it, possibly humanity's last chance at explanation. Ambassador, this is beyond unauthorized, hisses Kix, mandibles clicking nervously as they descend through maintenance shafts. The Vraxian diplomat had appeared at the last possible moment, redirecting security with a fabricated diplomatic incident 3 levels below. How did you know I was in trouble? Alina asks, crawling through conduits never meant for human anatomy. Her knees protest as they scrape against rough-hewn asteroid rock. Your quarter's power signature spiked, Kix explains, and I assign myself to monitor you. Self-preservation. If humans are censured, the Vraxian position becomes precarious. Alina pauses, studying Kix's alien features. Why are the Vraxians the only species opposing human censure? Kix's compound eyes flash with bioluminescent patterns that Alina's translator doesn't attempt to interpret. Because 3 Vraxian colonies were nearly bombarded when your diplomat suggested he was shooting for the stars last cycle, we understand the danger of translation failures. They emerge into a vast spherical chamber carved directly into the asteroid core. Holographic displays hover throughout the space, emitting soft light in spectrums both visible and invisible to human eyes. The legendary gallery of voices, the most complete repository of sinolinguistic data in known space. Level 9 clearance required for entry. Alina whispers in awe. How did you? Temporary looping of security feeds. Kix interrupts. 10 minutes before they notice. Make them count. Alina races through the displays. Futurian crystalline resonance patterns that convey emotion through light refraction. Murag color-based emotional projections that serve as their primary language. Tiskik collective consciousness harmonics that allow 1 billion individuals to function as a single entity. She's searching for patterns, divergences, anything explaining why human speech causes such chaos in translation matrices. There, she stops at an anomalous reading on the evolutionary comparison chart. While all 74 spacefaring civilizations show smooth, logical progressions in communication development, the human pattern is jagged, explosive, wildly inconsistent. That can't be right, she murmurs, diving deeper into the data. The revelation strikes like lightning. Every other species evolved communication primarily for clarity and precision. Information transfer was the evolutionary pressure that shaped their languages. The most successful communicators survived, creating species with hyper-efficient, logical linguistic systems. Humans alone evolved language for connection and possibility. Earth's harsh conditions made imagination, the ability to conceive of that which does not exist, a survival trait. Human language didn't just describe reality. It created potential realities through shared understanding. Look at this, Alina exclaims, pulling up comparative brain scans. When other species process language, it activates information centers. When humans speak, especially using idioms and metaphors, it triggers the same neural regions as actual dimensional perception. Kix, don't you see? When Ambassador Diallo said, "Cross that bridge," his brain was literally simulating a hypothetical future and treating it as navigable space. The translation matrix detected this neural activity and interpreted it as actual reality manipulation. Kix's exoskeleton rattles in what Elena recognizes as the Vraxian equivalent of awe. Your species doesn't just speak differently, you think differently. Your casual conversation does what requires our most advanced quantum computers. Elena pulls up historical records of first contact protocols. The translation matrices were designed by the Tiskek and Futurians, species with the most literal communication styles. No wonder they've always struggled with human idioms. They programmed their own biases into every translator. They never considered that language could evolve for anything except precise information transfer. Kix agrees. The matrices are detecting the neural patterns of human imagination and interpreting them as technology signatures. Alarms suddenly blare throughout the chamber. Security discovered the breach sooner than expected. Run. Kix pushes Elena toward an emergency exit port. I'll delay them. Get to the assembly chamber. Why risk yourself for me? Elena asks, hesitating. The Vraxian's mandibles form their version of a smile. Your people have an expression. Sometimes you need to take a leap of faith. You know that one's dangerous too, Elena warns. Perhaps, Kix replies, but I'm beginning to think your dangerous human words might be exactly what this stagnant concordat needs. As Elena escapes through the maintenance shaft, she realizes she now possesses something more valuable than an explanation for the crisis. She has discovered a fundamental truth about humanity that even humans had forgotten. Our words don't just describe the universe, they help us imagine better ones. The Grand Assembly Chamber resembles a massive amphitheater carved from a single asteroid, its walls embedded with knowledge crystals from 74 civilizations. The ancient space has witnessed first contacts, peace treaties, and extinction declarations throughout its 1,000-year history. Today, it may witness humanity's diplomatic execution. Elena enters through the human delegation's portal, now draped with the black shrouds typically reserved for species under sanction. Her heart pounds as she steps onto the platform, acutely aware that 13,000 representatives from across the galaxy have fixed their attention on the lone human in their midst. Some delegates wear specialized perceptual shields. Others have activated personal containment fields. The Dravenary delegation has sent robotic proxies rather than risk direct exposure to human speech. Several translation officials triple-check their equipment, hands hovering over emergency override switches. High Arbiter Zolara, the crystalline entity who has mediated concordat disputes for 6 centuries, floats to the central dais. Her facets refract light in the formal pattern of most severe judgment, sending precise wavelengths that need no translation. Representatives of the Galactic Concordat, her harmonic voice resonates without technology. We convene this emergency session to address the human speech weapon deployment against the Tiskek Collective. The Tiskek representatives enter, 5 drones physically supporting their submatriarch, her chitin still showing stress fractures from the psychic backlash. The collective hissing of sympathy from the assembly is deafening. Humanity stands accused of Class 1 deception and unauthorized reality manipulation, announces Zolara. Under Concordat law, such violations carry penalties up to and including species quarantine, technological regression enforcement, or memory recalibration. Elena suppresses a shudder. Memory recalibration, the euphemism for selectively erasing portions of a species' collective knowledge. In this case, potentially humanity's linguistic heritage. The evidence will now be presented, Zolara continues. The chamber darkens as a chronological montage begins. Ambassador Chen saying time flies during the Arcturus negotiations, followed by temporal anomalies throughout the sector. Representative Williams commenting that solutions would come to light, triggering panic on photosensitive worlds that experienced unexpected solar flares the following week. A compilation of Earth idioms about changing one's mind, each correlated with unexplained personality shifts in nearby telepathic species. The most damning evidence comes last. Comparative brain scans showing how human metaphorical speech activates the same neural patterns as actual reality manipulation technology. The evidence is presented as proof that humans have been concealing forbidden capabilities behind innocent-sounding phrases. The chamber erupts into chaos as delegates call for increasingly severe penalties. Earth must be quarantined immediately. All human translators must be decommissioned. Their linguistic development must be restricted to literal constructions only. Genetic modification of future generations is the only solution. Elena spots Kex across the chamber, the Vraxian diplomat subtly gesturing toward the central dais, reminding her that her time to speak approaches. When Elena finally takes the podium, threats and warnings flood her translation feed. Security drones hover nearby, weapons primed to stun her if her speech patterns trigger quantum fluctuations. Honored representatives, she begins, her voice steady despite the hostility pressing against her like a physical force. Before rendering judgment, I request the ancient right of direct address. Gasps echo through the chamber. No species has invoked this right in 700 years. The right to speak without translation technology, to be heard in one's native tongue. You would expose this assembly to unfiltered human speech patterns, demands the submatriarch, her pheromones signaling outrage. After what we've shown. If our words are truly weapons, Elena replies, meeting the compound eyes of the insectoid diplomat, then face me unarmed, as I stand before you now. The High Arbiter's crystalline form vibrates in consideration. The human invokes an ancient right. Though dangerous, our traditions compel us to honor it. As protective barriers rise around the speaker's podium, isolating Elena within a quantum-dampening field, she takes a deep breath. Her next words might save humanity, or condemn it forever. Elena meets the gaze of every species that fears her most. I will now demonstrate what humans truly do when we speak. The assembly chamber transforms. Protective barriers rise around the speaker's podium, isolating Elena within a quantum-dampening field designed to contain any metaphysical effects her words might generate. Medical teams stand ready at every exit. Species with telepathic sensitivity don emergency neural shields, their expressions ranging from fear to morbid curiosity. For the safety of all, intones High Arbiter Zolara, her crystalline form refracting warning patterns. The human speech will be contained, but transmitted directly without technological mediation. This is unprecedented in modern Concordat history. The chamber's ancient protocols engage, systems designed for first contact scenarios with potentially dangerous new intelligences. Elena's words will reach every delegate in their raw form, a risk many representatives protest vocally until silenced by the Arbiter's resonating command. Elena closes her eyes, takes a deep breath, and speaks. I stand before you, unarmed. Her unfiltered voice, the first many delegates have ever heard, sounds jarringly different from the harmonized tones of translation matrices. Some delegates physically recoil at the strange phonetics, the unfamiliar cadence. Elena activates her personal projector. Behind her appears a sequence of images, early human cave paintings depicting hunts not yet undertaken, men drawing bison before the actual hunt, ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs representing abstract concepts like justice and eternity, illuminated manuscripts where words and symbols intertwine to create layers of meaning, Shakespeare's folios filled with wordplay and metaphor, mathematical equations describing invisible forces, quantum formulas expressing multiple simultaneous realities. She speaks simply but with growing passion, pointing to each image in turn. Though most cannot understand her words, the rhythm and emotion of human speech creates what seemed like human deception was actually a cognitive gift that appeared only rarely in other species, the ability to imagine what doesn't exist, and through that imagination, bring it into being. We didn't come to deceive you, Elena concludes, lowering the barriers between herself and the assembly in a gesture of trust. We came to join you, with all that makes us human, including our metaphors. For the first time since the crisis began, the chamber falls not into fearful silence, but thoughtful contemplation. The assembly chamber's atmosphere shifts subtly, suspicion giving way to cautious fascination. Several delegates disable their protective measures, leaning forward with the universal body language of intellectual curiosity. The Futurians illuminate in patterns indicating deep contemplation. Even the Vraxian delegation clicks their mandibles in the rhythm of respectful attention. Then, a disruption. The main doors part dramatically as medical drones escort a massive figure into the chamber. Gasps ripple outward as delegates recognize the prime matriarch herself, her towering form still bearing the crystalline support exoskeleton required after her neural shock. Her compound eyes reflect the chamber's light in fractured patterns, and the intricate lattice of her neural stabilizers pulses with artificial energy. The matriarch was deemed medically unfit to attend. Protests High Arbiter Zolara, her crystalline form vibrating with concern. I come not by choice but by necessity. The matriarch's multitonal voice reverberates without need for amplification. Her compound eyes fix on Elena with unsettling intensity. The human speaks partial truth, but her ignorance of her own kind's abilities presents greater danger than deception. The chamber falls silent. Not even the environmental systems dare make a sound as the matriarch approaches the central dais, each movement causing visible pain. Specialized drones project quantum stabilization fields around her neural centers. My shock was not from misunderstanding, she announces, addressing the assembly rather than Elena directly. It was from comprehension too sudden and complete. With a gesture that appears to cause her physical distress, she activates the chamber's primary holographic system, displaying quantum waveform analyses of human speech patterns alongside probability matrices spanning decades. Our temporal sensitivity detected what humans themselves do not recognize. The matriarch continues. Their metaphors create quantum entanglement effects because human consciousness truly does interface with space-time differently than other known species. Data streams through the chamber, evidence of statistically impossible coincidences following human linguistic declarations, markets stabilizing after human negotiators said they were turning the corner. Weather patterns shifting when human scientists spoke of clearing skies ahead. Outcomes shifting measurably when humans collectively adopt specific metaphors. Humanity possesses a latent psychic ability to influence quantum probability through collective linguistic consensus, the matriarch states, her mandibles clicking in what the translators interpret as grim certainty. What they dismissively called just expressions are reality-influencing constructs deployed unconsciously. She projects a neural recording of her experience during Diallo's statement. The assembly witnesses through her compound eyes as the human ambassador says, "We'll cross that bridge when we come to it." And, simultaneously, the matriarch's time-sensitive perception detects probability waves collapsing around future decision points, actually increasing the likelihood of successful negotiation outcomes. When your ambassador stated we would cross that bridge, the matriarch explains, the quantum potential for such crossing became exponentially more likely across all potential timelines, a direct manipulation of probability. The chamber erupts into chaos. Delegates shout over each other in panic and excitement. Quarantine all human worlds immediately. Genetic sequencing rights must be negotiated. This violates 37 non-interference statutes. The military applications are incalculable. The Futurian delegation illuminates in the pattern indicating highest alarm. They've been unconsciously manipulating reality since first contact. Even Kex looks at Elena with new wariness. The revelation, too profound to dismiss. Elena stands frozen at the podium, staggered by this accusation. Her mind races, connecting patterns. Humanity's improbable evolutionary leaps, Earth's unlikely survival through extinction events, the statistically anomalous technological development curve of her species. Could there be truth to the matriarch's claim? Elena begins, but her translator glitches, overwhelmed by the complexity of her emotional response. Order. Commands the High Arbiter, but for the first time in 6 centuries, her harmonics fail to calm the assembly. I request. Elena finally manages, her voice cutting through the chaos, an emergency recess to consult with Earth Command. The Arbiter grants her request, But as Elena exits, she notices the guards around her have doubled, and their weapons are no longer set to stun. The revelation hasn't just complicated her defense, it's transformed humanity from misunderstood curiosity to existential threat. In her secured communication chamber, Elena receives Earth's response to her urgent update. Deny everything. This is fiction. Survival at stake. But as she prepares to return to the assembly, she can't shake the growing certainty that the matriarch might be right. The assembly reconvenes with tension thick enough to taste. Delegates murmur anxiously, divided between fear and fascination. Enhanced security drones hover at every entrance, their weapons systems primed. The Tizkek matriarch sits immobile at the center, her compound eyes fixed on the human entrance portal. When Elena returns, she walks differently, with the measured confidence of someone who has made a momentous decision. Earth Command had given her extensive instructions, defensive strategies, negotiation parameters. She will use none of them. Honored representatives of the Galactic Concordat, Elena begins, her voice steady and unaugmented. I stand before you having reflected deeply on the matriarch's revelation. The chamber holds its collective breath. We came to the stars thinking ourselves ordinary, she continues, only to discover that what makes us human is exceptional in ways we never understood. Elena activates her personal console, accessing her secured diplomatic cache. Data streams onto the main display, Earth's own classified research correlating with the matriarch's findings. Records of probability anomalies surrounding major human declarations, statistical impossibilities in humanity's development timeline. Evidence that humans have indeed been unconsciously altering probability through linguistic frameworks for millennia. Representatives gasp as they recognize authentication signatures. These are genuine human research files, never intended for alien eyes. Ambassador Reyes, you violate direct instructions from your government, warns her AI assistant through her earpiece. Earth Command expressly forbade. Elena silences the AI with a gesture. There comes a time when truth matters more than advantage, she says, addressing both the assembly and her distant superiors. But this is not technology to be feared or weaponized, Elena explains, sending historical DNA sequences to every delegation's data terminal. It is evolutionary heritage, like the Vlhurgan's natural sonar or the proxy's regenerative abilities. She gestures toward Earth's evolutionary timeline, the quantum anomalies appearing precisely when early hominids developed abstract language, coinciding with mysterious leaps in cognitive development. For 200,000 years, we've carried this gift without understanding it, using it not for dominance, but for survival on a world that nearly destroyed us many times. It shaped us as we shaped it. Quantum field displays show how human metaphorical speech creates ripple effects through probability, subtle enough to go unnoticed, yet significant enough to have guided humanity's improbable journey to the stars. You fear what we might do with this ability if we become fully conscious of it, Elena acknowledges. Your fear is rational. We've asked ourselves the same question. The chamber grows utterly still as Elena approaches the center dais, looking directly at the matriarch. Security systems track her every movement, ready to neutralize any threat. Then, with deliberate care, Elena deactivates her neural shields, making herself completely vulnerable to the matriarch's telepathic perception. A gesture of absolute trust, never before offered by one species to another in Concordat history. Read my intention, she offers. See the truth of what I will say. The matriarch extends a trembling appendage, establishing the briefest telepathic connection. Her exoskeleton vibrates in what those familiar with Tizkek expressions recognize as profound surprise. Then Elena delivers the one phrase that silences the entire assembly. Humanity doesn't speak to describe the universe. We speak to dream it better, and we invite you to dream with us. The quantum resonance monitors spike momentarily, then stabilize into a harmonious pattern never before recorded in the chamber. The words, and the intention behind them, create a subtle but measurable shift in the probability field encompassing the entire station. In the profound silence that follows, 13,000 representatives face a pivotal choice: to fear human difference or embrace it. The matriarch, her neural pathways still linked with Elena's, is the first to respond. She emits the sacred harmonic trill that, in ancient Tizkek tradition, signifies recognition of a new sentient category, an equal unlike any other, but worthy of profound respect. The Dream Shapers, she names them, using formal Concordat classification protocol. One by one, other representatives signal agreement. The Futurians illuminating in patterns of cautious acceptance, the Vraxian delegation clicking their mandibles in the rhythm of new alliance, the ancient Dravneri releasing their containment fields. High Arbiter Zolara's crystalline form prismatically refracts light in the pattern signifying historic transformation. The accusations are withdrawn, she announces. In their place, we establish the Concordat Initiative for Linguistic Evolution and Probability Studies. As the assembly adjourns, the matriarch approaches Elena privately. Your kind has unconsciously shaped reality through words for millennia, she says, her translator now correctly interpreting human linguistic patterns. I'd wonder what you might accomplish if you did so with purpose. Elena smiles. That's a bridge we'll cross together. This time, no one misunderstands.